What's up, garden nerds? Today we're gonna nerd out over tree pruning. We have an expert, Tony Serra, who is gonna teach us how to prune about 4 different trees. It's a long video, but it's awesome. It's full of great information. I hope you enjoy it. Let's go.
The number one most critical item when you want to go and do any pruning, make certain your tools are clean and sharp and ready to go. If it comes to doing loppers, pruners, hand pruners of any kind, look for the bypass cut like this so that you get a good clean cut on your tools. Those anvil pruners, all they do is just smash. So you want to have a nice good clean cut left on your plants afterwards. Citrus, now when it comes to pruning citrus don't like a lot of pruning. They also want to have as much lower growth as possible, shade the trunk. Citrus are basically overgrown shrubs. They don't want to be pruned up to look like a big lollipop. I'm trying to see on this one here. So it's kind of hard to see, but right here is the graft. So on all grafted trees, if you face the graft north when you plant it, it helps lessen the likelihood of the graft area getting sunburned. So that's a good little tidbit there, especially for here in the desert for what we got to do. So yeah, so now run home, take the shovel, jump around it, and dig everything up and rotate it 90 degrees. So if you've already done it, don't worry about it. Your plants are going to be fine, but that's just something to look for. So on this citrus here, really there isn't a whole lot of pruning and that is one other thing now that everybody always likes to think of arborists as the guys who just want to come out and prune your trees up. We're just here to trim. And we're not here to just trim. It's actually, the less trimming you can do, the better. You want to leave more growth for photosynthesis. So don't see and look at it, how much can I always trim away. The idea is to shape and then leave as much growth, do as little pruning as possible. So on this citrus here, just let your pruners air dry. Rubbing alcohol, bleach, hydrogen peroxide will all work well. So we're going to remove this tag because the tag is on the one and only limb on this tree that really needs to come off. Always make certain your tags have been moved on your trees, because I see a lot of them where they're there for too long and digging into the trunk causing damage. So on your trees, just come in and you want to try and leave as small a cut as possible. So on this here, instead of, even though it would be leaving a little more dead on there, you're going to just come straight across instead of down at an angle, because trees don't heal from their cuts. They compartmentalize, so they grow around it. They don't heal, they just grow around it. And you don't need to add any paint on them anymore. The latest university studies are showing that that's not anything that needs to be done. On the rest of this tree, we're going to look at it, we're going to say, okay, hey, I've got one branch right here that's trying to grow back into the middle of it. So I'm just going to go ahead, remove that. Always take the flat side and have that the side where you're doing your pruning against the trunk to get us closer in. You want to try and leave as small a stub as possible, and then look and see how the rest of the tree looks like it's shaping. How are the branches going to be growing out in the future? One thing to note, citrus, all the flowers come from this year's new growth. Stone fruits, the flowers come on last year's growth. Citrus like as little pruning as possible to get good fruit production. Peaches, plums, nectarines, the more you prune, the better the fruit production. So keep them going that way. So now we're looking in here and seeing how things are growing. We got 2 shoots here coming out simultaneously. This one's growing right out over the top of this one here. So a lot of times people might go and remove this one. And you can have 10 different tree guys and we're going to give you 10 different answers. So just know that on what to prune. I'm looking at this as, okay, this is growing out over the top of this, but there's going to be enough difference in room here for them to grow out equally. So what I'm looking at is I'm looking at this little one right here and this little one right here that are going to grow up into this and up in through the rest of the tree. So I'm going to remove those two instead of having them grow up into it and into these upper branches later on. Remove those, and it allows this one to still grow out this way, have larger, more main branch structures on the tree, and it's not going to interfere with this here. Those aren't going to interfere with that. This is growing out at enough of a difference here. We removed the one that branched from there, so we have that growing out well. Look at the rest of the tree trying to come around from the side, and we have just the one shoot here that's going to grow up into that there. This one is growing up marginal up into this one. I will leave it for this year for a couple of reasons. Number one, we want to see how they end up looking after a year's worth of growth. Will they end up growing far enough apart? Number two, it's still a young enough tree. I don't want to see how much I can remove and expose to the sun right now that could cause potential burning. So leave those on there. You should be in good shape. The rest of the tree looks good. Again, like I say, one more little one here. The idea with citrus isn't to see how much you can trim, but actually how little. Just look at it for shaping when it's a young tree. Then we have this mango over here. We can see some dying right here, a little bit of necrosis. We've got the shoots growing up and in. And one thing to note, I think we'll do it on that plum tree over there. Might be a little easier to show it. So just come in at a slight 45-degree angle, about 1/4 of an inch above the branch that you want to keep. Make your cut there. This branch here, it's got a little bit of necrosis up at the top here. You can see that's dead there, and it has some black already coming down this side stem here, indicating that there's been some necrosis or potential necrosis down in here, possibly sunburn or freeze damage. So instead of leaving that here where this side is already damaged and badly burned and causing issues up above, you can go ahead and go in and remove the whole branch right here at the base where it attaches to the main trunk. This, from how it was looking, it looks like it was sunburned on that side. There's what it appears to be. And then go through and look at it, and that can be the easiest thing. First, go through, look and see for signs of disease, signs of death. Yeah, so that's what you want to do, is come in and look for it first. So have that there. This is at least trying to grow up here, and the necrosis stops right about where it's at. So we cut that there, and you can see on it here on the inside after you've cut it where there is still some necrosis there at the top, the bud showing on the inside there. So what I prefer to do then is to keep on coming down to completely remove where any of that may have been. Now you can see on it here, it's nice and clean all the way around, meaning whatever was causing any of the necrosis or issues should be dissipated now. So there is still a lot more growth going in on the inside. So to make it easier then while you're looking at it, we already have one branch right here going straight back into the middle. So we'll go ahead and remove that out so we can see what we're doing. That's coming up there. They're all, well, yeah, there's a lot of new shoots that started from lower on down in here. So that can sometimes make it fun to play around and try and decide what to prune away. So
what's happening when those new shoots come up and then they just die?
Well, here it can be, a lot of times it's our pH, our salts, our high pH, our salty water, saline water. So a lot of this here can be from pH issues, where you see some older leaves like that burnt, or maybe it got a little too dry in between watering because they're also used to much higher humidity. So that's where when we say try and water long, slow, and deep, especially for mangoes, it'll help flush the salts away from the root zone instead of lots of constant shallow watering. It's where when you plant, you want to amend the soil with a lot of peat moss, straight peat moss, not any of the ones that are as a mix, because peat moss by itself naturally is about 5.5 to 6 for a pH, which is what mangoes like. They like around a 5.5. Add plenty of soil sulfur to the soil. Say you can mix in 5 pounds easily per tree at planting, especially if you use like a DS90 or the Tiger Sol, either the dispersal DS90 or the Tiger Sol. Those are agricultural based sulfurs that'll break down with the water versus just general sulfur, which is broken down by microbial action and could be 1 to 5 years before it starts to have any type of benefit. So that's what you want to watch for. And then you may have to continually reapply it, the sulfur, on a regular basis. So this branch here has got some new growth coming out up above. Coming in around here looking at this tree, if you want to try and keep your tree shorter, easier for picking, harvesting the fruit, there is an open canopy method of pruning. And since everything's already growing back up into the center, this branch has some issues. You look at these shoots here, you can see some discoloration up above on this side of the stem. Still nice and green on the bottom, indicating it may have gotten a little sunburn there as well. So this is where, and know your pruner limitations. This is a much larger branch here. I could cut through it. It's going to take some struggle, some issues. You don't want to do it. That's where, thank you, you want to use the right tool. So if you remove the center growth, the center stem on a lot of these, give you shorter branching canopy, wider bushier tree, more open canopy, which is my personal preference for trees. Come in here, make certain you're not going to prune the branch behind it.
Is that true for all tree types?
I like it for all the fruiting except for having to worry about it for citrus.
Okay.
So, and figs if you're trying to control the height of the tree.
You don't want to do that if you're trying to control the height, or
No, you do. If you want to control the height and have a good open canopy, a nice wide open tree for stone fruits, yes, so that would be a way to do it. One other little point I forgot to mention, on all trees down low, other than say the first foot, don't be in a rush to prune them way up. Leave as much lower growth as possible the first year. That will slow down the top growth and help thicken up the trunks so that they can grow out quicker and better that way each year. So, because a lot of people prune them up right away and then they've got a tall, gangly tree. And so then to try and make this tree a little bit more uniform in height all the way around, instead of just having this one branch sticking up here, I think we're going to go ahead and we'll come in here and we'll take it back. We got 1, 2, 3 good shoots right there. I want to try and get a little growth going back out that way as well, so we're just going to go and come in right in here at the leaf axis and take that out. And then as you're coming around the tree, we can see here's another shoot over here that has some necrosis on it. So we'll remove that. And we still have 1, 2, 3 shoots that are kind of growing up into each other into the middle. Right now, after as much as what we've seen with some issues with some dieback, we're going to go ahead and leave those, let those grow out this year, to be doing photosynthesis for the tree to allow it to recover better. And then next year we can finish shaping, doing any further pruning on the inside in there. So we have a little necrosis up in here. I'm going to go ahead and remove that stem back down to here where we already have 2 good shoots coming out. And so yes, we've got a lot of growth here, but it's good, nice green new growth. No signs of necrosis. We're going to go ahead and leave that, let it grow out this year, and then now we've got a little bit more uniform tree in height and shape on it for this mango. These here may be something to watch out for sunburn on this trunk. Hopefully these will grow out quick and allow some shade here on this branch, so that will be something to keep an eye out for next year to see if any sunburn did occur on this tree trunk here. Different ball game. As I've seen people leave them, just keep them trimmed back as bushes for easy harvest, for shaping, for controlling the size area that you want to plant them, to having them as 20-foot trees. So that's up to you. If you're going to do it as a multi-trunk tree or as a single trunk tree, that's again up to you. They're going to do very well here, ready to grow. This one's already pushing out flower buds. I'd seen one yesterday, already had fruit on it. So if you want to come in and look at it, you can look and see how it's even already naturally trying to grow out as a bush. So it's up to you as to how you want to keep it shaped. So in this instance here, you want this as a bush or as a tree? If your goal is to hold it about 8 feet in height, we'll let it grow as a multi-trunk tree. So we'll leave more shoots at the base here. So then you want to come in and look and see, where do I have some good, strong, solid shoots? Which ones can I keep coming out of the very base bottom here? And since that one's kind of grew up wild out of the center there, we may go ahead and we've got some extra mulch in here, which is all right in a container to help retain some moisture. So we've got a whole bunch of them right here at the base. We don't need all of them. So this one almost looks like it's coming up from down in the root down there, so from its own root. So I'll leave like this one here, that one there for you, Chris. I mean, you can cut it and get root with it and start a new tree there from those. So you see how this one's grown out as a shoot from a root farther down in. This one right here, you could go and come in and cut down in here and take some of the root with it, and then you've got your own new tree started that way. So this one here has already been cut and topped, so it's growing back out, so we don't need to keep it coming off from the base trunk here. So we'll come in here, remove it there. You want to remove these few little ones right here at the base. This is the kind of stub you don't want to leave on plants where it's coming out here like this. If everybody can see this stub right here. You don't want to have those on there. Normally you could go ahead and leave it. This tree's young enough because the tree would have already healed over it. Same, you've got a long twig here with just that one shoot right there. Wild shoot coming out right here. So if you see like where all the leaves are, so at every leaf axis is a bud sitting down in here waiting to come out, pop out. So it's been kind of growing and leaning on this, getting some support from that there. And you have this one both coming out somewhat similar. This one's growing almost straight out and then back down. So it does have one shoot here. It's coming out pretty good that way, going off up in here, that could be trained up later on. So we're going to remove this one here. Again, about 1/4 inch, 45-degree angle, right above that there. And then we got these. We have that good shoot there. Here's this shoot here that's coming up kind of wild and flopping over. So if we look and see where it's really bending and flopping, come back down into here is where it has some strength. And so we've got one bud eye outlet growing out this way. We got one now growing out this way. It'll come up close to similar to this one here. We can see where there was a bud there before, and that would go out this way away from it in the other direction. So that's where we're going to want to go ahead and cut it, and that will allow it to grow back out nice and straight. We've got this one here coming up in the center, which could be another good potential to have as a multi-trunk. And the reason I'm leaving it as a multi-trunk, if you have one single trunk and you're holding it at 8 feet in height, you only have one branch now that's giving you fruit on it. If I train out with 3 trunks and hold those to about 8 feet in height, now I've got much more branching, and I'm going to get much more fruit out of my tree, and that's the whole reason for leaving more on there. So
I got a dumb question.
yes, and figs naturally grow as a multi-trunk. Figs want to look like an olive tree. They don't want to be a single trunk tree naturally. If you go out in nature and look at them and see, they're going to be as a multi-trunk tree. Orchards are a different ball game. A lot of stuff is trained up as single trunk trees for easy harvest. Now on this shoot here, we've already got one side branch coming out, so we're going to go ahead and see if we can't train that out since this is so floppy, and we're going to cut right above it. And what I'm doing is I'm leaving between these two here, so we're going to see next year what we might keep, what we might not keep. We got to remember this is one here that's growing from an attached root down here, where we can completely remove that and start it as a whole new tree. That's the reason it's being left and untouched. This one here is kind of grown straight out. We're going to come back into here. Here's a good bud to where we can get some more upright growth growing on it again.
You're looking at this bud right here?
Yes.
I see.
And then same with this, where it's been falling down and hanging down. We want to get some upright growth on it. So we're going to come in right to the leaf axis again. Prune it up. And then up into here, into the center to clean it up some. This has already been cut out here. So we've got some good lateral branches growing. This branch is growing back into the inside. So we will remove that there. Just clean up some of the small dead twiggy growth is all we've got going on here. And then that shoot there is growing out. Okay, so this one's growing up good and strong here. And we have another shoot coming up good and strong. Here's the original central leader. So again, if we want to hold it at 8 feet in height, here's the thing. If we just prune it at 8 feet, we're keeping it at 8 feet, then all it wants to do is keep growing up above it. So if you want a good branching structure that you've got it to where you can hold it at 8 feet later, you want to start that at about 4 or 5 feet up. So we have a couple of good shoots already coming off of this main stem here. So just like this one where it's already been cleaned out, we're going to come in here and so we're going to do a reducing cut here so that it branches out more this way from that point in time. Here again, this branch is growing out a little bit wild, but if we want to control the height, there's a good book out called Grow a Little Fruit Tree, showing where you can just go in and really whack trees back good and hard to really control the height for fruit trees. We got to remember that when we're talking about doing it with edible trees, it's different than doing it with large shade trees that arborists generally deal with, so that they are treated different. So there's a good book out there, Grow a Little Fruit Tree, that can really help you and show you if you're trying to keep your trees very small. So again, to get a good branch structure down low, because one other thing to remember too, this tree, once it's in the ground, it's also going to drop almost 2 feet in height. So if I cut it here, it's going to be branching down into here. So remember, if you're pruning them while they're still in a container, just keep that in mind as you're doing it so that you know about where your height's going to be. So if we come into here, I'm looking at it as I want to try and get everything's kind of growing both these directions. So I want to get something coming out more this way here. This leaf is growing out that way, so that's going to be my branch that will grow out that way here. Here we've got a branch that's just growing down, so we're going to remove it. A little dead twiggy growth. And then this one here again to control the height of the tree. We don't want everything all branched right at the same place, and again to get more growth going a different direction. So this has got 4 good shoots coming out right here already. So we're just going to go in and we're going to use what nature already gave us, something good to work with right there. Same thing over in here. We'll take it down into down into here to control the height. This is still kind of flopping over, so to get some upright growth on it, right about where the bend is, back in behind it a little bit. And this one here is still growing upright, but we've got some good branching structure right there already going. And then here, because we are keeping it more as a multi-trunk tree, again, more growth, more photosynthesis, more energy, better production, better overall performance on the tree. So we're not in a rush to see how much we can remove. And guavas are something that's easy to keep trimmed up, growing throughout the year. Being it's an evergreen, and we even managed to save the flower bud on it as we're pruning. So you can have your one fruit on it this year. Plums naturally have a very strong vertical growth on them. Stone fruits are what like to be trimmed much more, and so you don't need all these strong crossing branches in here. Here's where, if you really want to control the height on that Grow a Little Fruit Tree book, any height you're hoping to do on this one? Just have at it? Okay, so we're going to have at it with this one. We're going to show you if you really want to hold your tree height down. So this is your grow your little tree style.
To cut the trunk.
So there's some nice quick pruning. Now remember, this here is going to be about here once it's in the ground, so it's at waist high. I've seen people take them at knee high. So we've already done that. Now we're going to have a good low branched tree structure. Now we're just going to go in and clean up. This has got some necrosis there at the tip. Broken branch. That's growing back into the middle. This is growing back into this side. If we're going to really try and control the height of the tree there. This branch is dead there.
I feel hearts sinking.
Yeah, I know. I can feel it. It's gotten quiet. And then right in here, we've got some good buds growing straight up. So if you really want to control the height of your tree, and then that's growing back out that way.
And are you sacrificing fruit then to control the height, or?
This here, yes, because here on on stone fruit, so here's all your flower buds right down and along in here. These are leaf buds coming up into here. Here's flower buds at the tips. Now, that being said, so here's more flower buds in here, so you can see how they came on the prior year's growth. So citrus, the flowers will come with this year's growth on them.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you don't remember, I have a video with Tony where we talk about his awesome fertilizer. I'm gonna put it up here. Check it out. If you're looking for a good fertilizer and you're here local in Arizona, Tony is your man. You wanna reach out to him. He will get you awesome fertilizer. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.